Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. This is our weekly Westchester update. It is Monday, April 11th, and we're happy to cover some ground with you today. Our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, is here as well, and he will share with me some of the key issues that we want to report on. Ken will be talking about our initiative to provide better emergency services through a Radio Towers program. We'll cover both the numbers on COVID and also where we are for this week for vaccination centers and locations. We continue the satellite program around the county. We'll tease a little bit what's coming up with Earth Day and talk about the replacement of a footbridge in Bronxville. And then I'll just give you an update on the coming State of the County message. All of those items we'll be able to touch on very quickly. Though we do want to begin on a moment of tragedy, which came out of a moment of joy. Just a few days ago on Friday, the city of Mount Vernon celebrated the outstanding result of their high school basketball team. The Mount Vernon Knights, for the fourth time in their history, which is an amazing number when you consider it as a public high school, achieved the state championship in their category, AA category, in an undefeated season. It is a magical result, and having been a graduate of that high school 52 years ago, I know how important the basketball program is and how many NBA players and top-level college players came out of that program, and the pride that that basketball team represents to the city. There was a celebration, a tour, a motorcade through the city, and a great celebration on the steps of City Hall. And that should have been the end of the celebration and the beginning of a great weekend in a week that's prior to a week off from school. But unfortunately, a sad moment of tragedy interjected into it. Not too far away from City Hall, on the corner of Prospect Avenue and Gramerton Avenue, a corner that I've been on 1,000 times in my life, a couple of blocks from where I once lived, a couple of blocks from where I once worked. One young girl stabbed and killed another young girl. The specifics of the case will be adjudicated, and there will be a host of stories about this in the future, and the crime and punishment element of the story and the circumstances that led up to the fatal stabbing will all become apparent. But what is most important is the pall that it casts at a moment of optimism. Mount Vernon, as one of our urban centers, has had difficult years. They deal with many structural issues in that particular community that's not faced by other communities in Westchester County. And the people who work hard and pay their taxes and want to have basic services and live the same life that everybody else would want to live in Mount Vernon have had to deal with some level of incidence of crime that's not experienced everywhere in the county. This particular situation is heartbreaking. It's outrageous, but it's also heartbreaking because the young girl who lost her life was just 16 years of age. She was just in the process of celebrating that 16th birthday, which is a big moment for a teenage girl. And she also was an accomplished student in a STEM program, and she had a wonderful future ahead of her. And that future is gone now. And everyone, not just in the city of Mount Vernon, but across the county, mourns when a situation like this happens. It is appropriate for the young people of Mount Vernon to be the cutting edge of the response to this. Westchester County, through our Community Mental Health Department, led by the terrific Commissioner Michael Orth, will make our resources available to the young people of Mount Vernon, to the school district of Mount Vernon, the city of Mount Vernon, for whatever assistance in the mental health arena that would be helpful. And there are actions that the city and the school district will take in the days to come. We'll leave those announcements to the mayor and to the school superintendent. But we all mourn this loss of life, and we mourn the moment that we look at our society in general, the actions of specific individuals, but a society in general that have too many incidents of this type of violent behavior. And we hope that the young people of Mount Vernon will have the dialogue amongst themselves, and those of us as adults will be brought into it as well, to try to create a more safe society. But at the end of the day, it comes down to valuing human life. It comes down to finding ways to deal with the conflicts that occur in life, the anger, the animosities, that occur in life, and deal with it in a nonviolent way. We cannot survive as a free society if we are also to be a violent society. And we have to find a way to shape the anger of the moment and to try to deal with those issues, perhaps if it is of a mental health basis, so that those emotional feelings can be dealt with in a way short of violence. We will not have a society if we continue to have violence rear itself in moments of celebration. In broad daylight, 4 o'clock, 3:30 in the afternoon on a Friday afternoon, when a celebration was very much in order, and then now it becomes tears and sadness. So we send our respect and our condolences to the family of the deceased and to all of the young people in Mount Vernon, and we hope that we can be a partner in helping the city and the young people of that city deal with this terrible tragedy. We have responsibility, as we always do in these updates, to report on where we are in the scope of the pandemic, the COVID pandemic. These updates really began as what was once a daily update on COVID in the heart, 2 years ago, in the heart of the expansion of the pandemic. We are now well past 2 years, and it is an important issue in our society. It is not the only issue in the society, so we will touch on other things during these updates. But there is a desire, as the weather gets warmer, to put COVID behind us thoroughly and to plan for as normal a future as we can. And that is what we are doing. We are planning for a normal spring and a normal summer, but with precautions and with prudent action on our behalf, so as not to be completely enveloped in everything COVID, but at the same time to understand that COVID is not gone. In fact, we've seen an uptick in the number of cases. We have, as of the most recent report, a higher number of active cases in COVID than we had a month ago, and we have some concerns about the infection percentage rate being higher today than it was a month ago. We follow the ebb and flow of things. We were at a peak after the new year in the month of January with the Omicron surge, which gave us a huge number of active cases at any one point in time, 36,000 at its peak. By the time we reached the beginning of February, about a month after that, the number of active cases had shrunken down to the range of about 2,700, 2,500 cases. And then we went down much further than that to the first part of March, just a month ago, where we were under 1,000 cases, and we headed as far low as 800 some odd cases. Now we have returned to that 2,400, 2,500 case level. The important thing that gives us some comfort is that we have a reduction in the number of people that are hospitalized and also the number of fatalities. We have had in the last week 1 fatality to COVID, 1 fatality in the last week, even though we've had an increase in the number of active cases that went from about 1,600 cases to 2,500 cases. So that's many more active cases of COVID with only 1 fatality. And I think we attribute that to the greater extent to the fact that many of the people that are contracting COVID have been vaccinated. Now, what constitutes full vaccination is a debatable point. The CDC has been issuing a variety of announcements. We, the county government, follow what the New York State Department of Health tells us is the appropriate protocol to implement. I think most of us understand that the 2-shot vaccinations under Pfizer and Moderna was considered full vaccination until the booster shots were authorized. We treat the booster shot as a 3rd shot. And now, in some cases, certainly immunocompromised individuals are being encouraged to get a 4th shot. People of advanced age, also a 4th shot. So at this stage of the game, we have a variety of numbers that are in front of us as what percentage of us are vaccinated. What we do know is that Westchester has a higher vaccination percentage than the counties that ring us. I say this every week. We continue to outpace the Bronx and Brooklyn and Staten Island, Suffolk County, Rockland, Putnam, Orange, Dutchess, and so forth. That does not give us a great sense of pride because we live in a metropolitan area where people interact over those dotted lines every day. If I wake up in Westchester County but work in Manhattan, my Westchester percentages don't mean very much if I'm in Manhattan or if I'm in the Bronx or northern New Jersey or in Connecticut and so forth. We want to see the whole region reach a certain level of protection against the disease, knowing that vaccinations and mask wearing do not prevent you from getting the disease. It reduces the likelihood of spread, and it also reduces the severity by which the disease may affect you. And there are stories of people affected by COVID very severely, and there are stories, and I have one of them, in which the COVID infection hardly made an impact at all, depending on when you got it and the condition that you were in when you got it. So to report on where we are today, we are approximately 2,500 active cases of COVID. We have had 1 fatality in the last week. At present, we have about 45 individuals that are hospitalized for COVID. That number a month ago was 57 number, and 2 months ago that number was almost 200 people. So the hospitalization factor is down. The fatality factor is much lower, even if the infection factor is higher. We will continue to monitor this. We have no plans to implement any particular restrictions on our behavior, but we would ask you to make sure that every opportunity you have, if you have not been vaccinated even once, the vaccination will make you more resistant to the disease when it comes along. So we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about our radio towers project with our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. Then I'll be back to cover a little bit more on COVID. Ken Jenkins. Ken? Thank you.
Thanks, George. And certainly, as we've been talking through many different projects, County Executive Latimer is proud to announce the success of a years-long project to replace and begin enhancement of the county's emergency response and transportation radio systems. And if you want to think about this, this actually started as a result of the 9/11 attacks back in 2001 to make sure that there was interoperability between all of the emergency services. This particular project, when County Executive Latimer and our team came into office in 2018, was a project that was just at the cusp of getting started, where we are right now, to provide for the safety of county residents, our workforce, and the visitors, which is the most important job of government, and provide our dedicated first responder community with the best tools possible to protect lives and property. A new state-of-the-art voice communication system is in place. So this is a $75 million operation to replace and upgrade radio towers. It's in multiple phases, but the very first 2 phases of those are complete now. We were able to have some additional support from Senator Chuck Schumer, approximately $2 million to help us out, and also the fine and outstanding work between our Department of Emergency Services and our liaison to the federal government at that point in time, but now Deputy Commissioner in Emergency Services, Susan Spear, the Chief Volk, and many of our dedicated professionals in the emergency services, and working with the professionals from the Department of Information Technology, led by the Chief Information Officer, Marguerite Byrne, the radio group, and that entire team of individuals who are dedicated to ensuring those communication things are in place, that our county is best protected, and being able to have the interoperability between the agencies, as well as protecting from all of the cyber attacks that County Executive Latimer has pointed out in creating this cybersecurity task force, and it's an ongoing effort. But the Department of Information Technology oversees the design, implementation, and management of large mission-critical systems, and this is absolutely one of them. And again, with the work between the Department of Information Technology, we call it Do It, as well as our professionals that are in emergency services. There's a large group of individuals between our public safety divisions, our parks divisions, emergency services, of course, and many other individuals that participate to make these kind of projects work. Our Department of Planning, and on following through on the county executive's good neighbor policy, because radio towers, everyone wants to make sure that emergency services, when they pick up the phone, they get 911 and those folks can talk to each other, but no one would like to see that particular radio tower that's in their backyard. The fact of the matter is that these things are essential, and it is absolutely essential for us to move forward in this. This helps us out not just at emergency services levels with the police, but with the local municipalities with emergency services, fire dispatch, as well as public works in certain areas. Our transportation for the Beeline system, that had to be upgraded. Senator Schumer and Senator Schumer's office, specifically Megan Glander, was especially helpful because there was a push during the previous presidential administration to rid those frequencies for the radios that would have required us basically to replace $75 million worth of things. And we obviously were not alone. This was a problem across the entire country. And again, to the credit of Chuck Schumer and Senator Schumer and his colleagues, they were able to move forward and get us the ability to keep the bandwidth that we previously had allocated and reserved for emergency services purposes. And that was a tremendous amount of work. And again, we cannot give enough kudos to the person that helped us, and the point person for us on the county executives team, which was Susan Spear, now the Deputy Commissioner of Emergency Services. This new radio system replacement is done by Motorola. It was a RFP process, and at the end of that system, it'll have a 20-year plan to be able to support that. So we won't be spending that kind of money again, but we always want to make sure that our services can be upgraded and supported throughout this particular process. It is absolutely the kind of things that the leadership of County Executive Latimer has shown, that we take these long-standing projects that move forward, implement them, and be able to have the kind of things that people don't get to see every day, but exactly when you need that call to happen, those communications can move forward. There is another phase to the project that will continue forward, that will work with the local municipalities in order to have what they like to call in-building coverage. Surprisingly enough, especially in certain areas in Westchester County, you don't have coverage. You know this when you drive through Westchester County, as the county executive and I have this opportunity to do, where you don't have cell service in specific areas. Well, if you don't have service there, you might not have that kind of service inside of a building, and it's critically important for our first responders to have that. The county executive's his leadership has made sure that we are able to work with all of our local municipalities to continue to partner together to move this particular project forward. Again, we want to say thank you to Senator Schumer for all of his leadership and work throughout this process. We did have a press conference a year and a half ago when this project was moving on in front of our emergency services, again, because it's so critical for all of our first responders. So again, another great opportunity for Westchester County as far as the Department of Information Technology, our emergency services, and moving to be able to have the regional services and provide the outstanding support that Westchester residents deserve and expect. Thanks a lot, George.
Thank you very much, Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, and Ken was the driving force behind our executive committee's work on this. So, Ken, thank you for that very tangible role of leadership. You know, I learned a long time ago in my corporate years that the single most important job of a leader is to select, hire, attract high-quality people who know more than you do in certain areas of endeavors. I've always been, you know, kind of amused by those folks who sit in the position of authority, CEO or manager, lead manager, who project that they have the expertise in every possible area. That's just not reality. But reality is that if you have capable people in emergency services, in police work, in correctional institutions, in environmental policy, in running your parks and recreation, your DPW individuals, if all of those people are talented professionals and you can meld them together as a team, you can get the results that people want to see. And I'd like to think that's what we've been trying to do here into our 5th year. And certainly, Ken, your role as Deputy County Executive was essential on this project because, let's face it, interconnectivity is the ballgame in our society. Technology has moved us forward, and we have to stay current with all of these different things. Let me go back just on a couple more matters on COVID, and then we'll move forward in some other areas. Free testing is still available at the Westchester County Center in White Plains for symptomatic members of the community. Those with a known exposure to a confirmed positive case or those who wish to get tested for any other reason, you can do that at the Westchester County Center. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I indicated we were closing the county center for vaccinations. That's what takes up the bulk of the space at the county center. The testing component at the county center is much more limited, and so we're in a position now to begin the process of returning the county center to its original use. There's obviously a large parking lot outside that was torn up completely, and that is the area that's going to get its first attention. But even as we do that, we continue to have testing going on at the county center. So no vaccinations there, but testing. The CDC recommends being tested 5 to 7 days after an exposure. This is assuming that you are conscious of your exposure. Many times individuals are asymptomatic, and you find out that you were exposed, you know, multiple days after that original point of exposure. Appointments are encouraged for testing at the county center, but they're not absolutely required. Walk-ins are welcome, and there are specific hours of operations for testing. Mondays and Tuesdays, 8 to 4. Wednesdays, 8 to 12. Thursdays, 8 to 2. And Friday, 8 to 12. And that allows us that variation of different times to be able to accommodate our different groups. I'm going to ask Ken to cover, as he usually does, the satellite locations. There are quite a few of them. Keep in mind that we have set Yonkers and White Plains health clinics that will provide this vaccination on an ongoing basis, and then the other places that we have that are being done specifically to reach a particular audience in a particular location. Ken?
Thanks, George. And certainly because the vaccination satellite locations primarily have been both at the county health clinics after moving from the county center. We have those continuing on. But this week, because of the spring break for many of our schools, if not all of our schools at the lower levels, but definitely at some of the senior levels as well, that there's only 2 vaccination satellite locations this week. On Monday today, until 7 p.m., from 4 to 7 p.m., at the Yonkers Clinic at 20 South Broadway. That's every Monday. Again, so Mondays 4 to 7. Appointments are encouraged, but walk-ins are welcome, and you'll be able to do first, second, and booster shots at any of those locations, whether it's in Yonkers. And on Friday, the 15th, the White Plains Clinic at 134 Court Street will be open from 9 to 3. Again, appointments are encouraged, but walk-ins are welcome. First, second, or booster shots are going to be able to be given at those particular times. We usually like to give you things happening for the following week, especially in the school satellite locations, to give everyone an opportunity to be focused on that and be able to plan appropriately. The following week of the 18th, there are no locations that are going to happen on Monday at a satellite location for a school. The only clinics that are going to be open for Yonkers satellite location is in Yonkers from 4 to 7 on Mondays. Again, so next week we'll make sure to come in and talk about all of the locations that we'll have happening moving forward on the 18th and going forward from there. So we'll hold off on all of those because, again, it may be a little bit too far in advance to get down to the ones, especially at the end of the month. But keep in mind, again, no satellite locations in school this week, and earlier next week there are not a Monday or Tuesday location, so we'll catch up with you all then. And at this time, turning it back over to George.
Thank you, Ken. So as we move on from our COVID update, let me first begin to send our respects to all of our Westchester residents for whom this week is a major week in their religious traditions. For those of us who are Christian, this is Holy Week, Palm Sunday being yesterday. We look ahead to Holy Thursday or Maundy Thursday, followed by Good Friday, which is the most solemn day of the year on the Christian calendar, followed by Holy Saturday, and of course Easter Sunday ahead, which is the most joyous day on the Christian calendar. For our Jewish brothers and sisters, Passover begins the first night of Passover on Friday night, and that's the first night Seder, usually the first night Seder, and sometimes the second night of Seder, or when members of family or the community get together to have the common meal that evokes the flight from Egypt, which is very important in the Jewish faith, and it's also a pivotal element for the Christian faith, because the Last Supper in the Christian faith was a Passover Seder. We also know that our Muslim brothers and sisters are still within the month of Ramadan, which is a month of fasting and contemplation and renewal, and those who are observant Muslims are not taking any sustenance during the day. And fasting day long, and so that is obviously a difficult thing to do. We find that all of us, with whatever our respective religious traditions are, try to honor those traditions, and we think it's the proper mode for those of us in the secular society who are responsible for running the sewer treatment plants and the bus systems to recognize that the faith traditions that those of us have are extremely important as well, and we will reflect that in the schedule of activities that come up over the course of the next few days. As we move to other issues, let me highlight, beyond those of COVID, that we have had some success in replacing a footbridge that was washed away during the flood that occurred back in Hurricane Ida, which is now over 6 months ago. There were concerns that came from residents in Bronxville. It is the pedestrian footbridge on the Bronx River Parkway located off Pondfield Road, and the full replacement of it is now a completed process. Living in Westchester really represents, in a number of different things, access to the outdoors. I've often said, Westchester is near New York City, not New York City. The portion that makes it not New York City is the fact that we have green trees and walking and biking trails, and we have a different level of intensity. While there are urban parts of Westchester, there are very many rural and suburban parts of Westchester. The Bronx River Parkway trail is one of those, and to walk and to hike, the footbridge is part of that trail that's often used by many outdoor enthusiasts. So that full restoration through the Department of Public Works is now on the docket. We want to thank County Legislator Jim Nolan for his advocacy in this area. We all heard from a number of different individuals, elected officials like Mayor Mary Marvin of Bronxville, who's a guest of ours a few weeks ago, Town Supervisor from Eastchester, Anthony Colavito, individuals from all different stripes that talked about this particular footbridge as being an important part of our connection process for the Bronx River Pathway. So we're happy to know that this is now underway, expects to be completed, and it's one more step to reestablish ourselves after the Hurricane Ida flood, which came quite unexpectedly when Hurricane Ida, Hurricane Ida stalled over Westchester County and dropped a significant amount of rainfall back on September 1st. Hard to believe it's that long ago, but September 1st of last year. Looking ahead, April 22nd is designated each year as Earth Day. I well remember the first Earth Day happened my senior year in high school, 1970, 52 years ago. And now Earth Day has taken on a major activity in our society. It's not an official federal holiday, but it is a day where you see many organizations go out to do positive work on the environment. When we cover this topic next week, we'll cover some of the different cleanup activities that are out there, some of the festivals that are out there, but they're going to be all over the county in a variety of different places. We're very pleased to the county's working relationship with Sustainable Westchester, a not-for-profit organization, to promote a variety of programs. We're recently announcing the Grid Rewards program, which we'll talk more about at a separate press event, working with our local municipal governments on the food scrap recycling effort. Just last week, the city of Yonkers had a press conference. Mayor Mike Spano and his team joining the county food scrap recycling program with the Central Depot on Sawmill River Road, and a number of other communities also embracing that. So we take food scraps out of the waste stream, compost them, which is a better environmental way to dispose of them, and then to reduce the amount of actual garbage that has to go waste to energy. The continuing efforts to electrify our bus and car fleet, the work that we're going to be doing for solar storage, by putting up solar panels on various government buildings. We'll have an announcement about that. That work is going to begin this spring. So there's many things to look at, too, for Earth Day. We will cover some of those upcoming events when we meet a week from now, but just to put on your calendar as something that you should look forward to. Also, ahead, coming up a week from this Thursday, I'll be delivering the annual State of the County message. As you know, the president has a State of the Union message, usually in February. The governor of the state issues a State of the State message, which comes in January, and then many of our local officials will do their state of city, town, or village messages throughout the spring. We traditionally do it in April. We reestablished the tradition 5 years ago of bringing that speech back into the legislative chamber of the Board of Legislators. Both Ken and I are former members who chair of the County Board of Legislators, and we wanted to bring that back in as a matter of respect and direction, because it is the county executive and the administration's assessment of where we are as a county and what are the tasks that remain in front of us, what are the accomplishments we've had over the last year. And the Board of Legislators are governmental partners in those decisions. Most things that happen do require Board of Legislative approval. So we will be giving that speech Thursday night, April 21st, at 7 o'clock. It will be broadcast on Facebook Live. So you can go facebook.com/WestchesterGov, one word, and you'll be able to link in and see it. I can't promise you the shortest of speeches. I hope I can promise you a substantive speech. And for those who want to stay through the end, they'll be able to see a host of different issues that arise. We will be talking in the next few days about a number of other issues that are one-off issues. I mentioned grid rewards. We'll be discussing that. And also, we look forward to having, in the future weeks, members of the state delegation, state senators and state assembly members join us here to talk about some of the elements of the state budget that just passed within the last few days. We'll be joined next week by State Senator Andre Stewart Cousins, who is the Senate Majority Leader, head of the state Senate, and then we will have other members of the state legislature give us updates so that we can get a good idea of how that budget affects us. Many times when you see the stories that come out about the state budget as a former state legislator, it will talk about the macro issues in the state, things that are happening in the western part of the state and in the city, but we want our state legislators to address those impacts on education and a host of other issues here in our backyard. So we look forward to having that update as well. We're joined in the studio by Lisa Reyes, who's our communications manager. Do we have any questions from the press, Lisa? Very good. Then we have a feed. Any of the individuals in the press you want to follow up with us on any of these issues and other issues that may arise, by all means, please reach out to us, 995-2900. Lisa Reyes, Joe Scamato, Carolyn Fortino, Chelsea Pagano, John Borst, the members of our communications team, all capable professionals who can make the connections that are necessary. With that, we complete our report for today. We expect to be with you a week from today on Monday, April 18th. Keep in mind that Monday, April 18th is also the deadline date for filing your state and federal taxes. So if you're a Johnny last minute, you have extra 7 days before the last day. So this is a good warning to get it done while you can, even as we have the upcoming religious holidays at hand. So with no further comment to make, we appreciate you watching. Hope you have a good day, a safe day. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for watching, and be safe.